we're at it again. We're at it again. I told y'all I was coming on here. I wasn't to talk to you guys. I wanted to tell you a little bit more about job interview. So today we are just briefly going to touch on some of the top 3 job interview questions that you will be asked on any interview that you go on. Guaranteed. Okay? First question. In any job interview, you're always going to be asked, tell me about yourself. Everybody knows the tell me about yourself question, but a lot of people still answer it wrong to this day. Okay? So what people have a tendency to do is they have a tendency to ramble, especially on this question. So you got to remember, the whole interview, we're going to be asking you questions about your previous experience, about conflicts you've had. We're going to be asking you plenty of questions about everything. Okay, so now is not the time. And the tell me about yourself question, this is not the time for you to start telling me your whole resume. This is just an icebreaker question. It's just literally here to break the ice. Tell me about yourself means tell me what your current situation is. Briefly tell me why you're here. That's what it means. So what's your current job? What led you here? What have you done the last few years of your career? You know, tell me about yourself. You want to keep it short, keep it sweet, keep it to the point. You know, let me give you example one that I would do right now to this day. So I'm in a job interview. Let's say I'm applying for a human resource manager position, and they say, okay, so tell me about yourself. I'll start off by saying, well, I've been a recruiter for over 15 years. I've delved in various things as it relates to employee relations, benefits, onboarding, recruitment, you name it, I've been a part of it. So at this time, I'm looking to step into a more of a managerial role and try to utilize all the skills that I've gained over the last few years in the human resources field to benefit or to deal with the needs of the company. But the point of the matter is, you see how I just basically hurried up and said what I've done and what I look to do and how it's going to benefit the company. So those are the things that you want to say in the tell me about yourself question. Okay. People being nosy, y'all, coming in my situation. The next most important interview question you're going to have to answer is going to deal with conflict. Conflict is a given. I used to think that I was the most agreeable person in the world when it came to at the workplace. Not at home, but at the workplace. But you're going to experience some type of conflict, some type of disagreement, some kind of, you know, it doesn't have to be a blown out argument or anything, but it's definitely going to be a conflict. So answering the job interview question that deals with conflict is a given. Okay, so it's going to be phrased in multiple different ways. It's one thing they could ask you is, tell me about a time you've had a conflict on a job. They can say, tell me about a time you've had a conflict with a supervisor. Tell me about a time you've had a conflict with a coworker. Tell me about a time where you and another team member didn't agree on a plan of action. It all hovers around conflict. This is why when it comes down to job interview coaching, I tell people we're not going to study for an exact question. What we're going to study for is the idea of a conflict that you've been a part of, or we're going to study for how to answer the conflict question. So the key to the conflict question isn't the conflict itself, y'all. It's the solution. It's how it was resolved. So what you need to think about is you need to just kind of think about previous instances at work where it was some kind of disagreement, some kind of maybe a plan of action. You wanted to go a different way. It doesn't have to be, like I said, doesn't have to be a full out conflict. You know, sometimes they ask you about the conflict with the supervisor or a manager too. That's a trick. That's a trick. And I'll let you know why. The reason why is because you don't want to be saying how you and your manager had this big falling out. You just don't want to do that. You know, not unless you got some miraculous story to tell about how you and the manager is cool now, you know, and how you came back from it. When it comes down to conflict, you want to show the key is in the solution. The key is not in the conflict itself. It's in the solution. So you want to talk about the conflict, but you want to hurry up and talk about that. You know, you want to give them the star version. We can talk about that later too. But you want to give them the scenario. You want to give them what needs to be completed. You want to give them the action that you took, and you want to give them the resolution. The key is in the resolution. There was a conflict I had with a lady at the job who, let me tell you, it was totally her fault. It was totally 100% her fault. Okay, she was being a towards me, and we wasn't getting along. Like every email that she sent was just sideways, and I'm thinking to myself, for real, this is what we doing? You know, so this is a conflict on the job question. Okay. So what I would do, let me tell you what happened. So I went in this lady's office and I had to literally put her in her place in the office. Like we were sharing spreadsheets and she got access to my spreadsheet and then she had a million questions about it. But the questions were digging. Like I could tell the questions were she just was trying to have an attitude with me. So anyway, I ended up unsharing the spreadsheet with her. Okay. And I was just like, no, I'm just going to unshare it with you. Cause if it's too confusing, I'm not going to share it with you. So anyway, it led to an underlying conflict that me and her continued to have throughout the next few weeks. So what ended up happening was I was like, you know what? I got to take charge of this because the person who I want to impress is the VP. And she done told the VP on me, talking about I'm not working with her. And I was just like, hold on. So what had happened was I took it upon myself to walk over to her office because I knew it wasn't about to be working via email. Took over to myself to walk to her office. I knocked on the door. I said, you got a few minutes to talk? And I almost want to say, y'all, she said no, but I don't remember. But I feel like she had said no. But I had to catch her off guard. So I was like, you got a few minutes to talk. So I sat down at the table, y'all. Had to put my pride aside. And I said, you know what? I'm sorry for whatever I've done. You know, however things came across. I don't want to have a bad working relationship with you. I want us to work well going forward. You know, I apologize for anything that I may have done to you. I apologize for, you know, any miscommunication. Like, I want to have a great working relationship. I want us to be able to do our job well. And then she was like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that, Alexia. Thinking to myself, girl, nah, heck no, I ain't sorry. Nah, I ain't sorry. I'm just saying sorry because I'm trying to play the game. Okay? So anyway, right after I apologized to her, I marched my happy self right on over to the VP office. I let him know. I said, hey, you got a minute? He said, yeah. I said, I just want to let you know that me and such, we resolved our issues. I went over to her office. I apologized to her, and I think it's going to be good. And I meant it, but he was happy. But the point is, that would be a great story to share, to talk about conflict. You know what I'm saying? To talk about how you had a conflict with a coworker, and it doesn't matter what the conflict was. What matters is what you did to resolve it. And what I did to resolve it, I went over there and I just asked her if we could just chat briefly. I knew that it was something that I felt in my heart that we could work out, and I didn't want to, let it linger and affect our work. So from then forward, we were able to work together really good. Like, that's what I would say in the interview. That's the kind of stuff you would want to say to, make it seem like you know how to resolve conflicts. I didn't mean to stay on that one so long, but the conflict one is very important. So the first question, that is one of the most common interview questions that you're going to always be asked, is to tell me about yourself. We talked about how to answer that. Conflict, that's a question that's going to be asked of you. We talked about how to answer that. And third, this is another good one. The question is going to be resolving around teamwork. So when it comes down to teamwork, they're going to ask you something along the lines of, tell me about a time where you and a team member dropped the ball, or tell me about a time where a team member dropped the ball, or how do you work, like what type of team working style do you prefer? Do you prefer to work alone? Do you prefer to work as a team? Or tell me about a time when your team member didn't pull their weight. It's just a team surrounded question. So what it is when you are being asked about working in a team, you don't want to be sounding selfish. You don't want to be sounding arrogant. You don't want to be sounding like it's all about you. Thank you, son. You don't want to be sounding like that. So when it comes down to a team member who dropped the ball, you want to sound like, you want to say something along the lines of, the first thing I would do is depending on our relationship, I would try to talk to my team member. I try to talk to my coworker and see what's going on. How can I help you? Like, is there a misunderstanding? Like, do you understand what the instructions are? Is it any time constraints? Like, how can I help you so that we can make sure we reach our deadline? This is a part of the teamwork question. So again, all these questions, y'all got to prepare good answers for it. You can't just run them off at the top of your head like I'm trying to do right now, but you got to prepare for it. Okay. So when it comes down to how you work with a team, or tell me about a time that a team member dropped the ball, you want to be able to express how you pitched in to help your team member and try to help them going forward. You don't want to say that you just did it yourself. You don't want to say, when it comes down to things like that, because I want to reach the deadline, I just go ahead and proceed, and I just go ahead and take the work off their shoulder and stuff. I've been in interviews where that's what the candidate says, and it sounds really arrogant, and it sounds really selfish, and it doesn't sound like you're a team player. You want to be a team player. All right? Any comments, put them in the comments. If you need any help with any other job interview tips, any other job interview questions, let me know. But the 3 most common job interview questions they usually ask the same questions in interviews, so there's literally no excuse for being unprepared. That's true. I mean, they do usually ask the same questions, but the thing about it is sometimes people don't prepare, and they give answers that you got to understand. Like, if they're going to ask the same questions and it's 3 people that's in it, like let's say you in the final 3, how you going to set yourself apart? How are you going to set yourself apart in the interview? Like, how are you what if everybody answered the question good? That's a whole other topic. But then we got to talk about your personality, because personality, that's just what fit is. Fit, that's personality. And I know it sucks, but I'm just telling the truth. I'm just telling you how it is, y'all. So, okay, I'm gonna let y'all go for the night.